People always ask how I balance my family life with 400 shows a year. I'm just doing what I love with the people I love. It's my magic life.
I like Wes Iseli. I like everything about him.
All right, today's guest is a comedian, a magician, and a juggler. He was on Last Comic Standing, Showtime at the Apollo, HBO's Defconnie Jam. He was a regular at the legendary Comedy Store, and much more. He was also voted DC's funniest comedian by Washington Magazine. Everybody, it's Kevin Lee. Woo! What's up, buddy? How are you?
Hey, I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Dude, I'm excited about this. This is awesome.
I used to real quickly. I used to not really brag about the voted DC's funniest comedian thing because I was like, DC. But now DC has come into its own as one of the meccas of comedy. I mean, you think about some of the hottest acts in comedy, and they all come out of Washington D.C. area. Wanda Sykes, Dave Chappelle, Martin Lawrence. Tommy Davidson.
Wow, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. Earthquake, who just had a Netflix special out right now. Pierre, who's done movies with Halle Berry. I mean, the whole list goes on. I just bore you to death of all the acts out of D.C. that went on to have some really, really amazing careers. So, yeah, D.C. is starting to get recognized for its talent. But yeah, Dave Chappelle's from, who's the king of comedy right now, is from D.C., yeah.
Wow.
Sykes and Martin Lawrence, yeah.
I didn't know any of that.
So you're not gonna bore me with names, man. So I am a magic fiend, magic freak. I love magic, but I've grown up all my life loving comedy. My dad owned a video store, and at 9 years old, I was watching Eddie Murphy Raw, Eddie Murphy Delirious, Robin Williams specials. Old VHS tapes. So, I mean, that's what I would do as a babysitter. I would pop in old VHS of these stand-up shows, old Saturday Night Live bits. So when you're naming these people, it's just bringing me back, man. I'm loving it. I thought they were more from the Baltimore area, not the D.C. area. So that's what surprised me. I was like, whoa, that's cool. That's awesome, man.
The only really, really big-name comic out of Baltimore would be Monique. Comedian Monique is out of Baltimore, but no, Martin's from PG County, Maryland, and Wanda Sykes was born and raised in Virginia, actually, down in the Hampton area, but she started a career in Washington, D.C. At the Comedy Cafe, along with Martin Lawrence, along with myself, along with a lot of the guys who come out of there, Tommy Davidson, who went on to be on In Living Color. And then most of the guys out of D.C. who aren't super famous are still making waves in the business. Like I mentioned, Pierre, and who's done some really good stuff in the movies, and a lot of guys. I mean, you just can go down a list of acts right now that are just doing really good, that are all out of D.C. You'll be amazed. It's a lot. As a matter of fact, I just did a documentary that I was asked to be a part of that was filmed by a filmmaker, and it's called The Mecca of Comedy, and it's about D.C. comedians. Now, I don't know where this project's going to air, but this guy is a movie maker, and he got all the comedians together. And I just spoke with him a few days ago. I said, when is this project going to drop? He says, we're waiting on Chappelle. So he's waiting on an interview with Chappelle because he just flew out to L.A. and filmed his segment with Wanda Sykes. And it's a big deal. Yeah.
Wow.
That's really neat.
For its comedy guys, and women, of course, yeah.
Well, when that drops and you're going to be in it, you let me know, and I'll put it on all my social media and everything as well. So once you're on our podcast, man, you're family. We'll support you and help you out any way we can.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So you're in New York now? Because you were in California, D.C., California. Where are you now?
Born and raised in the Washington, D.C. area, Maryland, and started my career in Washington, D.C. at the comedy clubs and things like that. I started my career before that. I was a magician and a street performer and a magician and all that stuff before I got into the comedy clubs when I was basically 17 years old when I started working the comedy club circuit. But, all these years later, yeah. So, I've been to L.A. I lived in L.A. for a while and worked out there. I was a warmer back for a couple of TV shows out there. One you might know is In the House, which LL Cool J was, and Debbie Allen were the star of that show. I was a warm-up comic for that sitcom. I lived in LA for about, I think, 4 years, on and off. Back to DC. Then I moved up to New York about 12 years ago and been up here ever since. So.
How was it being a warm-up act? That's totally different, man.
It's good work. I mean, it's great money. I think a lot of comedians move out to LA to become celebrities or they get TV shows, and they end up in this circuit doing the warm-up stuff. And you never hear from him again. You know, you're like, what happened to this guy? What happened to Kevin Lee? Well, he's making $3,000 a week doing warm-ups. That's what happened to him. So, you know,
Awesome.
yeah, you got to make a decision. Do you want to become a starving comic until you become famous, or you want to do warm-ups the rest of your life? So some guys just say, hey, I'm going to just do warm-ups the rest of my life and go buy myself a house and put my kids through college. And there have been guys that have done that. The most famous one would be, I can't think of his name right now, just on the tip of my tongue, the guy that Bill Cosby used to endorse way back in the day. And he went out to L.A., he had Cosby's endorsement, and I'm like, oh, this guy's going to be a big star, man, and all this sort of stuff. And he went out there, Louis Dix, comedian Louis Dix. He went out there, and nobody ever heard from him ever again. You know, what happened to Louis Dix? He got out there and got into that circuit of doing the audience warm-up thing, and it's big money. And the guy's making really, really big money doing that on the side. It's like the cruise ship circuit.
Right.
A lot of comedians, they left the comedy clubs and got on cruise ship. Hey, what happened to Joe Blow? Joe Blow's on a cruise ship making, $25,000, $3,000 a week doing cruises. So he's like, hey, I'll see you guys when I retire, you know? So there's so many circuits out there and so many things out there. And so many comedians that are successful. And you look at the Dave Chappelles of the world and Martin Lawrence and Seinfeld and all these guys, but everybody's not going to be mega stars and everybody's not going to be filthy rich. But there are so many guys, ladies and gentlemen out there who are making really good livings, a really good living as stand-up comics that aren't household names. You know, they're working these circuits. They're on the cruise ships. They're touring acts. You know, they're out there traveling the world. You know, doing their thing. I mean, I've been all over the world. I've been other countries. I've been to Japan. I've been to Italy. I've been to Spain. I've been to Germany, Iceland, Sweden.
Nice.
I've been all over the world performing, you know, doing my comedy and my magic, you know, all over the world, you know, for years. I mean, I started performing professionally when I was 15. I'm 56 years old right now, you know. It's the only job I've ever had. I've never had a day job. I've never worked a 9 to 5. I've been a professional entertainer since I was a teenager, you know, basically self-employed. Entrepreneur before that word was popular, you know. so
many people ask us about being full-time magicians, and they're afraid to cut the cord and do it. And you know, if you want to be a full-time professional basketball player or a football player, you might not get that, but you can still live in that world and make a good living. You can be an analyst. You can write for a magazine and write the, you know, or predict the scores.
And you and I can name magicians who are making good livings or making a good living, but they're not Chris Angel, they're not David Copperfield,
right.
But these guys are out here making a very, very good living in the industry of magic, and they're not household names. They're just professional, good acts who are cut that cord and went out there and did their thing. Some of them on cruise ships, and some of them in Vegas.
And some of the household names we know have day jobs that headline conventions. They have real jobs. They do magic on the side, or they're making less than us because they have to four-wall their room. So
I've never played a magic convention. I never got into this thing when I was a kid, man. When I was a teenager, I used to get all the Genie magazines and all that stuff. I used to work at a magic shop in Washington, D.C.
Which one?
Part-time. Al's Magic Shop.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I worked in Al's Magic Shop. Part-time, was a brief stint there, but I was with Al Cohen had me come in, and he put me behind the register. I was there every Saturday. So he said, you want to go behind the register? I'll show you how to work it. So I get back there, he shows me how to open the register up and count, take the money and everything. And I'm ringing up magic tricks and stuff back there, you know. And, but it was always this, you know, I never went to I'm still to this day, I've never been to a magic convention.
Wow.
I've never been to a magic convention. I never felt like I was part of that family. I never felt like I was a magician. All my success came from the comedy club industry. When I started, I walked into a comedy club in 1983, and everything I have to this day comes from me calling myself a comedian, and being in the comedy circuit, working comedy clubs. Then I got on the college circuit, not as a magician, but as a comic, but I'm doing magic in my show. I'm doing juggling in my show. I never built myself as a juggler. I never built myself as a magician. I was always pushed as a comedian that did those things. So I get in these circuits, and so I never really always felt like an outsider to the world of magic, and I got to this point where I was like, wow, I want to be known by my peers. I want to be known by other magicians. And I didn't think it would ever happen until social media became popular. And once social media became popular, I became friends with other magicians on social media. And then that's how I started getting popular with other magicians, because they would see me working, they see my posters and my flyers, and they go, who's this guy? He's everywhere, And they started doing their homework on me and whatever. And then, next thing I know, I'm friends with guys. Years ago, I was living in L.A., and I flew into New Orleans. It wasn't New Orleans, it was Biloxi, Mississippi, to perform at a casino there. Beautiful casino. I heard it got torn down during Katrina, but I was on a review show, and the headliner illusionist was the guy Fred Becker.
Okay,
Fred Becker,
yeah.
and his wife. Fred?
Yeah, Fred and Bobby.
Yeah, Fred and Bobby. Now, this was the original wife. I mean, not the original wife, but his wife before the one he has now.
Okay.
I think Bobby wasn't. He was married to his first wife at the time. So I've never met Bobby, but yeah. But they were doing their show, and I'm in a review show with Fred and his wife. I forgot her name at the time, but I'm in a show with Fred Becker for, I think that show ran for 6 weeks straight.
Wow.
Yeah, and we became buddies, and we kind of lost contact because this was before social media,
Yeah.
So then when Facebook comes along and gets popular, we reacquainted each other, and so.
Well, social media is how I found about you. I mean, I do 400 shows a year, and, people on the East Coast on the West Coast have no idea who I am, because I do mainly the East Coast. Mm-hmm. And, because of social media, and because of our podcast, because of Winning Fool Us, I mean, I'm known around the world, and, I have listeners to this podcast right now in 46 different countries. It's pretty amazing. So thank God for all that connectivity. It puts us all together.
And, it's a great thing. I mean, I think coming from the old school and having to learn about social media, how to, because when we started, there was no social media,
Right.
We didn't have, when I started, there was no pagers. You remember pagers? I mean, there was nothing. I remember running up my mom's phone bill, making long distance calls to get gigs, My mom would get a phone bill that was $400,
Wow.
$500 back in the 80s,
Oh, goodness.
And I'm going to pay this phone bill, it's $400, my mom calling bookers long distance to get gigs. Now you got cell phones and nothing's long distance anymore, but yeah, it's so weird, man, how much the world's changed. And we've had to change with it, as far as now we have to learn social media, learn about Twitter, learn about how to promote ourselves on Instagram or now on TikTok's the hot thing, so, but it all's working out. Yeah, I'm starting to connect with a lot of magicians now. I'm happy about it. I didn't think I could entertain magicians. I didn't think magicians would like what I brought to the table, because I feel like I wasn't raised in the world of magic. I was raised in a comedy club sense. But when magicians come see my show, and I have lots of magicians that come out and see me when I'm at these comedy clubs, I'm in their towns, they come out and see my show, and I'm always getting wonderful reviews from them. I'm always so flattered, like, oh, I'm glad you like the show, There was a guy, The Illusionist. Remember that show, The Illusionist?
Yeah, the movie?
No, The Illusionist, the tour, the show that was on
tour. Oh, yeah.
One of the acts from that, I can't think of his name right now, him and his wife caught me in Boca Raton, Florida. I was down there at the performing at the Boca Black Box Theater, and him and his wife came out. They're from Virginia Beach, by the way, too. I think what's his name? He was performs in Virginia Beach. Can't think of his name right now. I was with the Fedora on stage. Real nice guy. But him and his wife came out and caught my show. They were down there with the show The Illusionist was performing in Miami. They came out on an off night, caught my show, and we hung out. And I went out and had dinner after the show. And, so we stay in touch on social media. But yeah, so I get to meet a lot of magicians, you know, and it's changing my thought on magicians. I used to didn't like magicians. Can I be honest?
That's fun. Well,
Hey, the magicians can be a weird bunch. I tell you what.
I worked in a magic shop, and I used to see the worst of magicians. I used to every Saturday in this magic shop, guys would come in, and they would spend all their money on magic. As soon as these magicians, and they would stay there and talk for hours. As soon as this guy would leave out the door, all the other magicians would turn around and start talking about him like a dog.
Oh,
Wow,
no,
wow.
that's not good.
Bad taste in my mouth all these years about magicians. I'm like, oh no, these guys aren't, you know, they're so mean and rude. Because I was a young kid, I'm seeing this. Why, you know, they spend hours laughing at this guy. And as soon as he walked the door, oh, Wayne Allen's an ass, you know. I'm just throwing a name out there. But I'm just saying,
wow. Yeah.
you know, so I was like, wow, that's weird. You just laughed and joked with this guy for a whole hour. He's dropped $100 in the magic shop. As soon as he leaves out the door, you start dogging him out.
Oh,
That's crazy,
that's
man.
horrible.
Yeah. Well, I
So
mean,
that gave me a bad taste. That gave me a bad taste
Yeah.
in my mouth for magicians for a long time.
I could understand that.
there's definite cliques. I mean, I have friends now in Vegas, and I go to Vegas, and it's one of those towns where I have so many magician friends. I have to pick and choose who I hang out with that week because, and if you tell one of them that you're going to somebody else's house, well, why aren't you coming to see me? You know, that guy's a turd. That guy, he's not cool. He's, you know, it's very cliquey. There are cliques. But I'm so much of an outsider because I've just had my head down performing that I was kind of like that in high school, though. I fluttered between the jocks and the nerds and the, you know, the skateboarder kids and, you know, whatever. It didn't matter. I was like a butterfly. I'm that way in magic, too. I try to go... I don't want to choose a side, man, because I love everybody. So
I think being an outsider is not a bad thing. Sometimes your ego gets involved, and you want to be loved by your peers or known or be famous amongst your peers, and that's just all ego. And if you can control that, as long as you're making a good living at your craft, then you know, you're okay. But like I said, the ego sometimes get involved, and you want to be, I want to be a star amongst magicians, you know, whatever. I want to be a star in the magic world, you know. I don't know if being on the front page of a magazine, a magic magazine, puts more money in your pocket. It probably doesn't. So, but that's just ego once again.
well, I can tell you, I've been on a couple covers, and I have another one coming up. It doesn't bump your pay scale at all.
No.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help. But you know what? It is great for your ego, and it is great to have that as a medal, just like, you know,
Pat on the back.
running a track meet in high school. It doesn't get you anything, but you have that award on your table. I'm going to frame that next issue of that Magic magazine that comes out with my face on the cover. But it does, you know, because how long can I do this? I was on an interview this morning on a talk show. I said, maybe I have 25, 30 more years if I'm lucky. I'm putting as many shows as I can, and I'm doing as many reps as I can, because I was off for 2 years due to the pandemic, and it sucked. I like being on the road. I like performing. Somebody told me I should charge triple the amount and work less because I do 400 shows a year. No, that's not what I want. I want to entertain as many audiences as I can. When my wife had a show yesterday and they wanted a Saturday at 8 p.m. and another show wanted Saturday at 8 p.m., they were already booked. And it's like, well, can the first show move theirs to 6? And I want to do them all, Kevin. I don't want to charge one more and do just one, you know?
Yeah. See, that means you love what you're doing. When you love what you do, you're going to be successful in most cases. I mean, and that's a good thing. I mean, yeah, a lot of guys do this for lots of reasons, but the main reason has to be your love for it.
Yeah.
Or you're just not going to have the endurance to be able to survive. You know, guys come up to me all the time. They go, "How do you do this?" You know, because I'm constantly on the road. And I know a lot of people I came up with, they're old. They're starting to look old. see some of your colleagues you come up with that are burnt out and looking 10 years older than they should, and the business is taking a toll on them, you know. I can't speak much for the magic industry because I've never really, like I said, made a living. I don't believe, even though I'm a magician. I got to stop saying that because I'm a magician. I do magic on stage, but I don't feel like I actually go out and build myself as a magician. And I'm an outsider, you know, like you said. So, but I'm a magician, so I need to start saying I'm not a magician. But the point I was making, I don't feel like, as far as the comedy industry and stand-up comedians, it's a really, really rough industry, and it can take its toll on you. The industry is nuts, you know.
Well, I mean, outside looking in, I'm vice versa of you. You know, I do some comedy magic, but I'm not a comedian. You know, I wouldn't stand on stage and try to do a 15-minute set, comedy only. I would have to have magic. But outside looking in the comedy world, it looks like there's a lot of drug abuse and a lot of alcohol. Now, there may be in magic too, but it seems like it's more rampant because you're at a nightclub. There's beer there. People want to have a drink before they go on, after they get off stage. So that's why they look 10 years older. I mean, just, you know, liver abuse alone.
Yeah, that'll take a toll on you. Speaking of comedy magic, and I think Jonathan, who just passed away, the amazing Jonathan, I had this conversation with Harry Anderson a long time ago, and Harry made a very good point that a lot of comedy magicians could not survive in the comedy club circuit, you know, like, because, not meaning they're not funny. What kills at a magic convention may not kill at a comedy club on a Saturday night.
Absolutely.
Right.
You know, so somebody like Poland Company, who are known as these great comedy magic act that plays all the comedy conventions, and it's hilarious. But that act's not going to work well at a comedy club.
Right.
You know, what Jonathan did worked well at a comedy club, you know. What Mike Hammer does in Vegas will work at a comedy club. And Mike has his own show out in Vegas. But his act will work at a comedy club, you know. But a lot of guys who call themselves, I mean, one of the funniest people I've ever seen in my life was Harry Blackstone Jr., you know.
Was that intentional? Was he
Harry Blackstone Jr.?
Was he intentionally funny, or was it accidental comedy?
Oh, no. He did a rope escape in his act. And he brought up about 6 guys from the audience to tie him into a rope. And it's a rope escape. But it was hilarious. I mean, it was brilliantly funny.
Wow. That's great.
Out of all the things Harry Anderson did all the things that Harry Blackstone Jr. did on stage, and here I was probably 16 years old when I caught his act at the Wolf Trap Theater in Northern Virginia. He was at Wolf Trap, and my stepdad got me tickets to go see Harry Blackstone Jr. I had no idea who the hell Harry Blackstone Jr. was. So I show up to this theater, and I have no idea who he is at this point. I'm just 16 years old. You know, I'm new in magic, and he knew how much I love magic. So he got me tickets to go see Harry Blackstone. I know nothing about the history of Harry Blackstone. I know nothing about who he is. Only person I knew at that point was Mark Wilson, because I had the Mark Wilson course of magic, and I knew Doug Henning, because at that time Doug Henning was, you know, the man on TV before David Copperfield, right? So those were the magicians that I knew. I knew and of course Marshall Brodeen, because without Marshall Brodeen I wouldn't have a career, because his TV magic cards is what got me into magic. So, but yes, I would go see Harry Blackstone Jr., and he was absolutely amazing. But what he did on stage, the best part was when he brought people from the audience and did comedy magic. And here's a guy who, at that point, had a live elephant on stage.
Right.
You know, I believe there was a tiger in the show. I remember him shooting his wife through the cannon into the nest of boxes. I mean, he had all the spectacular illusions and costumes and all the $1 million show. And I left the theater going, the rope thing was the funniest thing I ever seen. That's all I remember.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
And it just proved my point that, you know, that is so entertaining that that you can be in front of a crowd in a theater and absolutely kill them with a rope trick. And in the back, you got a freaking elephant.
Yep.
Right.
Waiting to be produced, So,
Well, Kevin, we're driving around in an RV, pulling a trailer with illusions in it, and some of the best bits in our show. I mean, the thing I fooled Penn and Teller with was $50 and a piece of paper.
there you go, man.
I mean, it's crazy, and those things take 30 minutes each to set up, and gas prices and pulling a trailer, and it's crazy.
Can I tell you my Penn and Teller story?
Go for it.
I'm a kid. I'm probably a little over 16 years old, going on 17 years old. Maybe a little younger than that. I'm not quite sure. Maybe younger than that. And I'm performing. I don't know how I got this gig, but being booked was easy for me, man. I always ended up with work. I don't know why or how, but I came up at a great time where you didn't have to struggle to get work. So I'm booked. Here I'm a young black kid, and I'm booked at the Maryland Renaissance Festival, which is one of the biggest Renaissance festivals in the world, from what I understand back in the day. So I'm booked to perform at the Maryland Renaissance Festival as a street performer, just walk around with my juggling clubs and do some juggling, and that was it. I had my little court jester outfit on.
That's awesome.
I go to, in my time off, I go over to the theater to see these two guys that are performing, and it's Penn and Teller.
Was it the Penn and Teller or Asparagus Valley Cultural Society?
No, it was Penn and Teller.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it was Penn and Teller. Yeah, it was Penn and Teller.
They had three at one point, and they were the Asparagus Valley Cultural Society when they were doing Renaissance festivals.
Oh, okay. Now, this is Penn and Teller. Just those two. I remember it like it was yesterday. And Penn did the needles from the mouth, Teller did the needles from the mouth, and at that point, I don't think Penn was doing any magic; he's just a juggler.
Yeah.
A straight juggler, and he did juggling, eating the apple and stuff like that. They were very entertaining, but he was eating fire, and I asked him to teach me. He told me get away from him.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah. So I went back to my dorm room. We were staying in dorms. I had to stand in some dormitory down. This is on the Maryland Eastern Shore. The festival is normally in Columbia, Maryland, every year. For some reason, they moved down to Maryland Eastern Shore this particular year, and that's the year I was on. So they had some of the entertainers standing in the dorm at one of the local colleges down there. And I went back to my dorm room, and I was so upset. And I go, I'm going to teach myself to eat fire. And I taught myself to eat fire, and I've been eating fire in my show every night now for probably the last 30 years.
In spite of Penn.
Yes, and despite of Penn. And it was probably, and the fire eating is my finale of my show, so it is, it rocks. It rocks. So,
I eat fire, but I'll be darned if I would have taught myself. That took some guts.
Yeah, it does take guts. I was determined.
And that was pre-Google, so you didn't even know what you were doing.
No, I didn't. I burned I actually ended up going to get some clothes. Remember back in the day, they said clotheslines?
Yeah.
Where you hang your clothes outside. So I went to a store. It was A&P grocery store, which is not around anymore, I don't think. But I went there and I bought some rope. And I made the wick out of the rope. Put some lighter fluid, and I took a coat hanger and a wire coat hanger and made my handle, and I tied the rope around it, and that was my fire eating stick.
Whoa.
Wow.
Now, the rope worked well, but then one day
It came
I
untied.
bought some rope, and they changed the rope.
Nylon.
This rope was made out of like a plastic stuff.
Yep.
So when it burns, the plastic drips.
Ugh.
So when I went to eat the fire, a piece of the plastic fell on my lip, and I had a burn mark on my lip that went away after like maybe 2 years.
Oh gosh.
All right, so everyone listening right
Oh.
now, it's 100% cotton. Only use 100% cotton.
Yeah.
No blend
Yes.
varieties. It's dangerous. You will burn yourself. It will drip. It will hurt you. Yes, that's why you need a teacher for this. Yes. Don't do it in your dorm room by yourself. That's not good.
Don't take the Kevin Lee route. But you know what? I taught myself basically everything right here in my hand right now. You can't see this, guys. I just picked up my chainsaw off the floor here, and I'm sitting at my desk, and right next to my desk is my chainsaw. I taught myself everything that I know, basically. It was books at the library. I went to the library and got books on magic, and nobody taught me anything. I just taught myself. I'm the most self-taught guy there is, man. I just taught myself everything. Sleight of hand. I taught myself my magic tricks. I taught myself how to juggle. I worked with a guy at an amusement park years ago, and we were a team. He did the juggling, I did the magic. And when we split up, I wanted to learn how to juggle. So I just started practicing, yeah. And so I'm self-taught on the juggling, too. And this chainsaw right here, you know, I taught myself that. So
Golly, wow.
So, yeah, I'm self-taught, man. I didn't have a teacher, but I don't recommend you don't. You know, like martial arts. If you want to learn martial arts, you go to a school to learn martial arts. You know, you don't just go get a karate book out the store and then go, okay, I'm gonna kick somebody's butt in the street. No, you go to a school and learn. You know, you learn. So I do recommend that. I wasn't fortunate to have parents when I was young that had the money to put me in a school. And we didn't have YouTube back in my day when I was, 14 years old. It's so easy now. You have YouTube. You have everything at your fingertips now. You should be the best magician on the planet at this point, if you want to be. Because there's nothing stopping you but practice and imagination. Because to all the young magicians out there that may be listening to this, trust me, you got it good.
Well, you also have to be a good performer. There are very skilled, I don't know how deep you are in the magic world, if you even dip your toes in it at all and watch magic videos, but some of the highest skilled card workers, coin workers in the world are a bore to watch. They're amazing to magicians because they know the skill that's involved to accomplish what they're accomplishing, but they're not entertaining at all. Now, this is some of them.
100%.
Not all of them, but some of them.
I agree 100%, and a lot of them are, and that's why, I think that's what I have going for me, is that, and I'm going to say this, and you won't hear me say this often, but I suck as a juggler, and I suck as a magician, but I am blessed with being a great entertainer.
Yeah, and that's more important.
It makes up for it, because I'm such a good entertainer on stage. It makes up for me being a mediocre juggler. It makes up for me being a mediocre magician because of the charisma and the gift of gab and all the other stuff that comes. Some things you can't buy. You can't buy charisma. You can't buy being a good entertainer. It's just something that's natural, I believe.
But what's funny about juggling is, and I had a gig where I was able to do it the way I think you did it. You just picked up some clubs one night and you got the rhythm down, and then you just put it in your show right away. You didn't think you were... if somebody hired you for a juggling gig alone, you'd probably turn it down. But you'd add it to your show for 10 minutes or 3 minutes in your show.
Right, yeah.
That's the proficiency level you were at. But the funny thing is, after doing it for 30 years, you've put your 10,000 hours in of juggling. You're a hell of a lot better juggler than most people that say they're jugglers. Because you do it every night.
I do it every night, yes.
Yeah.
Every night. Yeah, I do it every night. I juggle every weekend somewhere on stage in America or around the world. But I know there's guys out there that can do the 8 rings and the 9 rings and the 7 balls and all that stuff, and it's just so boring to watch. And I'm like, I don't care that you can do 7 balls. It's boring. I was on a cruise ship, and I'm performing in a theater on a cruise ship. And I get off after my show, and I'm walking through the cruise, and they have a juggler on the cruise. Now, like I said, I'm on the cruise. I'm not billed as a juggler. They got me on as a comedian. But I do the juggling magic in my show, So I'll go see this juggler, and he's the guy. He has the rings and the balls and the clubs, and he's super fancy, and he got on a circus outfit, and people were just looking at him going, okay, and then they walk off. You know?
Yeah, that's not good.
And I just finished getting a stand ovation in the theater that holds 900 seats, and I was like, I never can juggle as good as that guy. That guy was freaking amazing, what he was doing with those clubs and rings and balls. I was kind of jealous that I'm not that good. I didn't have the time to practice or the what should I say, the motivation to practice maybe like he had to practice to get that good.
Yeah.
But me juggling my little meat cleaver bowling ball and Hostess Twinkie got a stand ovation, you know.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
At the theater an hour before I saw this guy boring people out of his mind, out of their minds. You know, people were just watching him walking off. It was really kind of sad and embarrassing, but he was an amazing skilled juggler. But yeah, it just takes, I don't know why they forget they have to be entertainers also, but like I said, it's something you can't buy. You have to, I think it's something that's born inside of you, you know, that you have to have that natural instinct to be good, you know.
Well, I haven't.
Michael Jackson had, he didn't come from practice. I mean, I'm not saying he didn't practice, but it's just something that you're born with, you know.
I haven't seen you do the Twinkie. Did you do the Twinkie because the apple is rough on your teeth? I can imagine doing the bowling ball. What else did you have? Bowling ball, chainsaw, apple, and you bite the apple as it goes around.
The Twinkie in the
Throwing that apple into your face. I night after night, I'd imagine chip your front tooth.
I love apples. I love doing the apple bit, actually. I just put the Twinkie in the show to try to, because a lot of jugglers that do the apple eating, I mean, a lot of jugglers have juggled over the years and eaten the apple. So I wanted to do something different than what other jugglers are doing. So I put the Twinkie in the show. The problem is the Twinkie is so messy. Once you bite it, and you bite it again, now you got that white cream stuff all over your fingers, and it's on the floor, and it's sticky. So now, you know, you get the stage all sticky with the creamy Twinkie crap all over the place. So, yeah, it just got to the point where it was just too messy. So I went back to the apple. But the Twinkie thing was really getting good response. It was funny, you know, and people just loved the fact that you had a bowling ball and a Twinkie at the same time going through the air.
Wow.
Because of the weight difference, you know, it was very impressive. But it was just too messy. I had to take it out the show. And so I'm back to the apple. But I actually juggled an apple pie, a whole apple pie, a meat cleaver, and a bowling ball at one point.
Oh my goodness.
So I was experimenting with different things to do. And after all my experimenting, I still ended up with the apple just because it's the least messy thing, you know.
See, one of my pet peeves of performing is refills. I have tricks in my show where I need refills, but now you have to find an apple pie before every show. It's a hell of a lot easier to find an apple. Where were you getting apple pies?
Just where I perform, I go hit the grocery store, which I still do. I still got to go buy a bag of apples.
Yep.
I still had to go get a cucumber because I use cucumber on stage to chop them. When I show how sharp my blades are.
Yeah.
Every show I got to have cucumber. I got to have apples. I have to have lighter fluid for my fire stuff. I have a fog machine for my fire eating bit. At the end of my show, I do a Michael Jackson fire eating bit. So I got a fog machine. You know, the music starts and the fog machine and the glove goes on, the fedora goes on, and all that stuff. So it's a theatrical bit. You know, so I have to load up. I just went to the magic shop and got flash paper the other day because I got to keep flash paper on my show. So because I use a lot of flash paper on stage for a comedy bit that I do. So yeah, I'm in the same boat in a sense. I'm always reading, and I still use mouth coils in my show. So I always got to load up on the mouth coils, and I don't use the colored ones.
Just white.
So I used to just the straight white ones because I work for adults, basically.
Yeah.
So the colored ones would be a little corny for the adults, you know. So I use the straight white ones, and they got the ones that are they're like 60 feet long.
But you're working all over the world. You do comedy clubs all over the country.
Yes.
You're on, not Fox and Friends, but you're on the morning talk shows and different things like that. Do you have a publicist, an agent, manager, or do you do it all, or do you have one of each, or how are you getting all that accomplished?
Yeah, I have a little bit of everything. I had a publisher. I have a manager. I have an agent. As of now, I'm not exclusive with anybody because, having a good agent and manager is like having a good wife, They're hard to find, but when you get one, you keep it, right?
Right, yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I've been through a couple of divorces here with the managers and agents. So it's a crazy industry, and you go through things. So, yeah, but I still get, my calls from my agent, my managers, keeping the shows coming in, keeping me busy, keeping me on the road. I'm just not under exclusive contract with anybody at the moment. But I've been out on tour. I was on tour with Wanda Sykes a few years ago, did a national tour with Wanda Sykes. A tour with Gladys Knight not too long ago, before the pandemic. I was on tour with Gladys Knight. And speaking of Michael Jackson, a tour with the Jacksons, the brothers, because they're out on tour right now doing their thing.
Wow.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
they're very nice guys, too.
On your website, it says that you toured / performance. I didn't know what that meant. With Sinbad, Dave Chappelle, Martin Lawrence, Andrew Dice Clay, Chris Rock. Were you
those are just guys I work with over the years. Yeah,
wow, that is so awesome.
Over the years, yes, I've been out with all of them on the road. Somewhere on the road, I've been out with everybody you just mentioned. Yes,
that's amazing. Do you have a favorite comedy club after all this time?
I have several favorite comedy clubs. I love Vero Beach, the Riverside Theater. It's called the Comedy Zone in Vero Beach, Florida. That's one of my favorites. My other favorite comedy club is in Florida also, Vasani's Dinner Theater, which is in Port Charlotte, which is great. Another one of my favorite venues is in it's a comedy club located inside the Hard Rock Hotel Casino in Cleveland, Ohio. That's a great club, too. And Virginia Beach Funny Bone is one of my favorite places to perform. Haven't been there in a while, but it's a beautiful club, beautiful venue. So I have several places I know when I'm going back to perform there. I was like, I can't wait to get there because it's a great audience. It's a great venue, beautiful, big stage. I like big stages,
See, man, we got 1-year-old twins and we got a 10-year-old daughter. And one of the things my wife and I like to do is go to comedy clubs when we're on a cruise or on vacation, and we just got to wait for them to get a little older.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard. You can't get a babysitter on vacation. But that was one of our favorite things. Myrtle Beach had a cute club down there, a little tiny club, but they had big names come through. I can't think of the name of it right now, though.
Me neither.
I'm there next week.
Myrtle Beach?
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, man.
It's called, you're probably talking about the club I'm at next week. I'm at the Comedy Cabana.
That's it. Yeah, man. That's a good club. That's a good club.
Yeah, I'm there. Look on the website. I'm there next week, 12th through the 16th.
There's not a bad seat in that room. It's just a really great club.
Yeah, it's a great place. Yeah, they had me there. They actually I'll tell you how they found me. I had a residency in a residency show in Myrtle Beach. It was a family show. I did a family show. I went to a comedy club to perform down there. The other comedy club used to be there called the Carolina Comedy Club, which was a Comedy Cabanas competition. So I'm performing there, and the owner says, we have a family show. The magician that's working for us is a jerk. We don't like him.
You know what? I think I knew who that is at Myrtle Beach. We'll talk off the air.
You're talking, yeah. So they fired him and brought me in to do the family show. He said, "Can you do a family show? Well, we've seen your adult show, but can you do a family show?" I said, "Dude, I started out as a street performer. I can work anybody's audience." So we did the family show for the summer, and it was amazing. We sold out all the shows. The kids. Let me tell you about kids, though, man. Even though I've been an adult performer most of my life performing for adults, there's nothing like entertaining kids, man. It's the best feeling in the world when kids come up to you after a show and they want to hug you and shake your hand and just,
That's awesome.
I mean, it was just awesome, man. It's just amazing to see all these young kids. They want to take your picture and take pictures with all these kids, and it was an amazing summer. So we did 93 shows down there. at the Carolina Country Club. So when that club was having some financial issues and they didn't know if they were going to make it, and the owner sold the club, Cabana people reached out to me. He goes, "You mind coming over to our club to do a family show?" I said, "Yeah." So I go down there, and it didn't work out well because they're off the beaten path.
A little bit,
club,
yeah.
But they don't get a lot of tourists. They don't get the tourist traffic the other club got. So their family show wasn't as popular as the Carolina Comedy Club was because Carolina Comedy Club was located at this place called Broadway on the Beach, which is like
huge rent also.
Oh yeah, the rent. That's the problem they had.
Yep.
Was the rent? Yeah.
Yep.
And that's why they couldn't manage to keep the doors open. The rent was killing them. So I ended up over at the Cabana. The family show didn't work out, but they bring me back every year to headline the adult shows. And I didn't work there last year because of the pandemic. The year before that, the pandemic, and then the year before that, they wanted me to work, but I was in Bahamas for 2 months performing, and I couldn't do it. So I'm back here for the first time in 3 years next week.
Dude, that's awesome. That's a great club. I got a couple questions for you, lightning fast. Sure. We got 15 minutes. I just want to go over a couple of your routines. I'm doing homework, studying about you for the podcast here. I'm looking up videos, and you're on. Was it the Defconnie Jam? Martin Lawrence introduces you, and you're like, "Hey, everybody, give it up for my good friend Martin Lawrence," as you're spraying down the mic and the mic stand with Lysol. And this was back in 1993, pre-pandemic. So freaking funny. The juxtaposition of you telling everybody how good of a friend you are and spraying that mic down. Hilarious. So funny.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things. And it's still in the show to this day. It's been my opener since I was, like I said, when I was probably 18 years old somehow. That ended up in my show. And I've just been doing it ever since. And, it's just stayed in the show. Now, some of the other young comedians out here, because of the pandemic, are starting to do that bit. And some of them are being told that it's my bit. I've had a couple of veteran comics hit me up and go, "Hey, man, I saw some young comedian in Philadelphia spraying the mic." I go, "Hey, it's Kevin Lee's bit?"
Right.
Like that. So they're starting to hear it because everybody knows it's my thing. I've been doing it, like I said, it's been in my show for 30 years. So everybody, and it's been on television. I've done it on TV, on national television. So, so it's my thing. But it doesn't bother me that other people are doing it because, none of these young comedians are working where I'm working. So,
Yeah, but it's not cool. You don't need to steal anybody's bit, man.
No, it's not cool. You're absolutely 100% right. It's not super cool, but yeah, that's something I did on Martin Lawrence, and it just killed that crowd because nobody expected it. At that time, by the way, Martin was the biggest star in the world, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, Defconnie Jam, it really blew him up to another level. That show was so iconic, man. And Netflix did the 25th anniversary special, Defconnie Jam, 25th anniversary. It's been 25 years or something like that. So that came on last year, and my clip is on there also. So not that particular clip, but a clip from my set is on the show. So.
Dude, that's awesome. It might be the clip, my favorite, well, it's hard to say favorite clip, because I love that, because the juxtaposition of you saying he's your buddy, and you're spraying it down, and you're looking back at him, and you're wiping the mic stand, it's hilarious. But another funny bit on that same special was you, and I don't want to give it away, I want people to go look up Kevin Lee Comedian, Defconnie Jam, you can look it up, I want you to see it. But it's you demonstrating your previous job before you got into show business, and it's visual. Yeah. And it's hilarious. I mean, everything about it is just so hilarious, dude. Very funny.
That bit I just put that back in the show.
Hilarious.
It's been out of the act for years, and one of my friends said, you can recycle that. It's a whole new audience out here that didn't see Defconnie Jam. It's new people out here that never even seen the bit, so put it back in the show. So I didn't think about putting it back in the show, but Kevin Hart, comedian Kevin Hart, we all know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
His company, LOL Network, posted my Defconnie Jam video on YouTube last year.
Wow.
Yes, because my YouTube video of my Defconnie Jam set is on YouTube. I didn't post it. Kevin Hart did. And I think right now it has like maybe 800,000 views. Yeah.
That's better than being on a cover of a magazine.
It don't have 8 views. Kevin Hart posted it.
That's
8,000 views. So
well, that's
yeah,
what I was trying to ask. I was hinting about that because all of a sudden, even with social media, your name is blown up, and I'm seeing your clips everywhere. But it's because Kevin Hart liked you and put your bid out. That's awesome, dude.
He put that bit out there, yeah. So that helped a lot. And then I put it. Then I put it on. I put that clip on of me climbing through the window frame.
Yep.
I put that on TikTok, and it had like something like 20,000 hits, and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
I
man.
have a lot of videos on TikTok, and that one got 20,000 hits.
Well, I know I watched it. I watched it twice. I laughed both times. And then I replayed it. I ran it across the house and replayed it for my wife. I wanted my wife to see it before I talked to you and before I knew you were going to be on here. Showtime at the Apollo. You were on that. Is this the one where they had the...
My mom hates that bit.
She doesn't like it. Well, it's funny. It's funny. What about the Showtime at the Apollo? That thing...
I'm saying I'm a thief or something. I guess she don't like it, but she's gotten over it.
Dude, it's a joke.
1991.
It's a joke. So, Showtime at the Apollo... is this the one where they can boo you off the stage and the sweeper comes and all of that?
Yeah, but when I went on Showtime at the Apollo, I was lucky. I went on as a guest. I was already considered a professional. That's just an amateur night thing.
Okay,
so
all right.
Thing where they boo you and they come on and sweep you. That's called Showtime at the Apollo Amateur Night, and it's a segment of the show where amateur entertainers come out people who want to be in show business come out, and if they get booed, then that's you saying, hey, you probably need to go keep your day job. And if you survive that whole thing, then that's sort of an endorsement that, hey, you're really good. You survived the Apollo. Now, I was lucky enough to go on as a already professional entertainer. So Sinbad actually introduced me on the Apollo, brought me out. And I came out and did my thing, and the audience loved it. And I also filmed that night. I filmed the same night. Here's a funny story. I'll tell it really quickly. The night I filmed, everybody know who Barry White is? Singer Barry White?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. The night I was there, Barry White actually they did like 4 shows in one day at the theater. So they take like 4 shows in one day, you know?
Okay.
Because they're not taped live.
Right.
So, they're not shown live. They're taped episodes. So Barry White was on as a musical guest the show before me. And the audience was booing him.
Oh, my gosh.
So Sinbad had to come out and say, hey, you can't boo Barry White. He's a legend. What the hell's wrong with you guys? So they had to redo the whole segment all over again.
See? That audience scares me, man.
You'd be backstage going, holy crap, they just booed Barry White. I don't stand a chance, like, what the hell? Like, what's going on? So, yeah, you're really nervous. You're scared. Even as a professional entertainer, you're still not safe.
Goodness.
Unfortunately.
Well, as a magician, if you miss a card on purpose and say, is this your card? No. They're booing you and they're outrageous yelling and screaming, and then you do a trick and it turns into their card. They don't even see the magic happen because they're already in boo mode, and it's over. It's over.
Right on the nose.
I couldn't do that one. No, thank you.
No, that's a tough crowd, man, and it's a tough crowd, but I never endorsed that whole show or that segment. I think it's demeaning. I think it's a credit that I could never use in my resume with much respect because the industry doesn't respect the show. So they don't go, oh, well, Kevin Lee was on Showtime at the Apollo. So, that's how the industry looks at that show because of that type of nonsense, believe it or not. And so they hurt, a lot of entertainers or have been hurt from being on that show or just can't even say, hey, that's a major credit. As a comedian, magician, major credits are important in my industry because when you got national television credits, you can ask for more money. Like I was on NBC's Last Comic Standing was the last TV show I taped. That was 2016. That show was produced by Wanda Sykes. And the year that I did the show, the celebrity judges were Roseanne Barr, Norm Macdonald, who passed away last year, and Keenan Wayans was one of the judges on that show. So, and Wanda Sykes was second producer of that show. But yeah, I did Last Comic Standing on NBC. That was 2016. And I hate these type of shows. I'm not a big fan of America's Got Talent. And I just think entertainers being put in a position where they're being judged. It's just not, you know.
Well, at least Last Comic Standing, you're being judged by other comedians. You're not being judged by Paula Abdul or a record producer judging Magic. That doesn't even make sense.
That is true.
Yeah.
Simon Cowell has no right to judge a magician.
Right.
You're absolutely right, because he knows nothing about magic. So yeah, you got a good point there. You make a very good point. Yes.
So a video my wife hasn't seen. I just saw it today. I'm researching today. And you're sitting there casually talking, I think, in your kitchen, and you're doing a chop cup routine, which is for the audience, it's a cups and balls with just one cup, one ball. So the misdirection is right there. And you're picking up a cane, and you're using that as a magic wand. And I'm like, what? Does the dude not have a wand in his house? He's using a cane. It's obviously a magic cane. He's using a cane, and he's not talking about it. He's doing the chop cup routine. And then about your third time, you pick up the cane, and you're like, yeah, my wand's bigger because I'm black. And I was like, dude, right when I'm thinking, like, does he not have a wand? Well, this thing is huge. It's way too big for the table. It's way too big for a chopper. It's because you're black. It's bigger.
That's great.
Yeah, that's, yes.
Yeah, dude, funny
Like
stuff,
that,
man.
That the audiences love, man. And that's funny, yeah. But that's why I didn't have the regular one.
But dude, that's like the juxtaposition of the microphone and spraying it down, giving him love and spraying it down. If you'd have just came out with that cane and did that, it was the fact that you used it several times and said it was your wand, and then, oh, by the way, oh yeah, mine's bigger, because that's what made it funny, dude. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You have a book. You have a book on Amazon. Tell everybody what that book is called.
Oh, the book is called Playing with Fire, and real quickly, it's just a book about my life as a road entertainer, comedian, magician, juggler. Been traveling on the road since I was a teenager, all over the world, performing professionally. And the book just covers some great highlights of being a road entertainer, some of the negative things. It's a very interesting book. There's some stuff in there. People, if you read the reviews on Amazon, there are people that say, hey, I laughed and I cried. And I'm a comedian. I don't want people to cry when they read my book, but there's some really deep stuff in the book. So the book is not all comedy. It's about my life, and I've had a rough life. In a sense, some things have happened that have been bad, and but so many great things have happened in my life. So I'm in a good place. I'm blessed to be able to do this and still be able to do this, and I get paid to play with magic tricks and juggle.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I was going through not a depression. I was bummed out about 6 months ago about something that me bummed out, and I was driving in my area going to a restaurant to get some takeout food or something, and I see this guy walk up the street, and he has these 2 giant plastic bags on his shoulders with cans, like he's out there collecting cans so he can go turn them in to get money. And I said to myself, wow, it just made me think that I'm complaining when this weekend I'll be in a 5-star hotel.
Yep. Yep.
On stage, making more money than some people make working 40 hours a week, and I'm only on stage for an hour or 70 minutes. And I'm taking pictures of people after my show to post on my social media, and I'm having fun, and I'm living the life, I'm traveling, and I'm being paid. Somebody's paying me to travel to the Bahamas. People save for a whole year to go to Nassau, and I'm being paid to go to Nassau, Bahamas. So
you're doing all right, man. You're doing good.
Things that make you just go, stop bitching.
Yep. So we have like 30 seconds left, man. It's Facebook, Kevin Lee Comedian. Is that correct?
Yeah, Kevin Lee Comedian is my fan page, because my regular page, I got my 5,000 people limit, so I probably can't have new friends. But yeah, if you go to Kevin Lee Comedy Show on Facebook, or just pushing comedian Kevin Lee on Facebook, that'll pop up. And Instagram is my big page. I love Instagram. That's at Kevin Lee Magic. on Instagram at Kevin. You guys follow me on Instagram?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Oh,
Yeah.
good, man. Yeah, good. Yo, at Kevin Lee Magic on Instagram.
All right. Well, hold on one second. I have a couple plugs real quick, and we'll wrap everything up. Shows are back. We had 7 gigs alone this week. We have lots of private shows, but check us out at the Hyatt Regency Resort in Cambridge, Maryland on April 15th and 16th. That's our only upcoming public gigs we have. Our television show, Wes Iseli's Magiclife, is in syndication. Check that out. And get our merch at wesisley.com.
Nice. Cambridge, Maryland, man.
All right, man.
I grew up in Maryland. So.
See you
next week.
I knew the Maryland. Hey.
Check us out online at wesisley.com and patreon.com/Wes_Isley for behind-the-scenes videos, blooper videos, never-before-seen footage, discounts on merchandise, magic trick tutorials, and more. That's Wes Iseli, spelled WESISELI.